Okay, we are a bit earlier, but I think that we can slowly dive into our keynote speakers panel. So our first speaker is Yuki Hirayama, who works as lead UX and UI designer and industrial designer at Mujin in Tokyo, in Japan. And the title of her presentation is From Chaos to Clarity, Curiosity as a Compass. Yuki, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you.
That's great. So when you are ready, please start. And one more thing I would like to just say, happy World Information Architecture Day for everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Veronica, for the wonderful introduction. So I'd like to start my presentation today. So if you can see the screen.
For now, we can see only you.
Oh, even now? You can only see me?
Yes.
Okay. That's okay.
That are the normal problems of the online events, so don't worry about that.
Okay, so how about now?
Now we can see. Oh, now it appeared. Okay, so yeah, we can see the presentation.
Okay, so I'd like to start my presentation now. Okay. So the title is From Chaos to Clarity, Curiosity as Compass. When our team answers your questions for 1 hour, we'll have to stay 1 hour longer to finish our main task. What is this design research for? Oh, please don't waste our time anymore. I was trying to think why and how this conflict and misunderstanding has happened between this particular key stakeholder and our design team. I already explained to all key stakeholders that getting contextual use case scenarios was a big part of UX process. And we all know there may not be enough resources, but this is true for our design team as well. As the organization is young, there is no design process established yet. The product is complex and the chaos is everywhere. Yes, I knew the challenges, but to create a great product, getting understanding from key stakeholders and the collaboration with them is the key to our success. Why can't we work collectively for our common goal? Have you ever been in a similar situation like this before? How to design a product in chaos? Hi again, my name is Yuki Hirayama. I have been in the design industry since 2006, and I started my career in New York City, where I went to design school. And I have experience in 2D, 3D design, and from startups to Fortune 50 in the US, and obviously user experience and branding. And I'm always so curious about all things about new technologies. And in a personal capacity, I love traveling, and particularly traveling alone, because I can really fully experience different cultures. And also, I'm a long distance runner. I completed a few New York City marathons. I was born and raised in Japan, but I spent a significant amount of time abroad, well, mainly in New York City in the US. However, I crossed the pond back in 2018 to join a robotics company here in Tokyo, Japan. So coming back to this question, how to design product in chaos? Well, as a long distance runner, and I often think product design process in chaos is very similar to running a marathon, but no course is provided. Well, yes, I described this design process in chaos is like running a marathon, but no course is provided. But I believe any presentation needs roadmap, and here is the one I prepared for today's presentation. First, I'd like to define complexities that often cause chaos. And then I'd like to move on to when more complexities may likely to exist in the product life cycle. And then product design process needs to be covered regardless of the size of your design team or the organization, or regardless of the industry you may be in. And then I'd like to cover potential chaos, three chaos, and potential cause of complexities. And then moving on to summary and closing. So first, I'd like to talk about complexities. What is complexities? Well, according to Nielsen-Norman Group, you can categorize complexities in 5 layers. First one is integrative complexity. The second one is information complexity. The third one is intention complexity. The fourth one is environmental complexity. And the last one is institutional complexity. I like to go one by one now. So this first complexity is called integrative complexity. This refers to the complexity of underlying technology, such as interconnection of multiple and variable, often legacy, backend systems or databases that support an application. For instance, when software is developed separately and that have its own goals, not as a group, but they were somehow Frankenstein. And so if you can imagine, if you are to create information architecture of the product that consists of, let's say, as an example, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Amazon, but you have to create one product and it has to make sense out of it. You can imagine how challenging it can be. And the second complexity is called information complexity, which is caused by the fact that program request interaction behaviors such as exploring, filtering, zooming to navigate because of the high volume data sets are spread around among unlinked subsystems. For instance, this is kind of similar to the first example I talked about, but if you are to navigate to accomplish your task by system, but if they don't follow common rules, similar to the first example I used, if you were to create information architecture to navigate Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Amazon cohesively, so that is caused by, that will add a lot of complexity because of the information complexities. And the third one is called intention complexity, meaning that this refers to the complexity associated with supporting the unstructured goals and the broad tasks. So because it's so broad, even stakeholders may not even fully understand the range of use cases or workflows that the application needs to support. For instance, like if your product is to be open box, quote unquote, there's not always known and ideal set of happy paths, so to call, that the users follow in order to accomplish a goal. Therefore, this endless possibility will bring complexities in creating information architecture. The fourth one is called environmental complexities. This refers to the physical surroundings of complex app users. These surroundings are often difficult to understand and design for without first-hand and real-time field work. For instance, if you're designing a software for aerospace or defense industry, this requires the UX practitioners to understand the actual flying aircraft itself and what it's like, and the interior environment, and also exterior environment, then situational awareness, then the health and the status of the aircraft or whatever the user is controlling. And I can very much relate to this because now I'm in the robotics industry where the user interface we are designing is literally the window between the user and moving the robot. And so the user flow does not complete on the UI, but also like you have to be really, really cognizant of what is happening in the three-dimensional world as well in front of you. And you are moving really heavy industries and not only robots, but you have to, in the industrial settings, you have to understand the surroundings such as conveyor belts, et cetera, et cetera. So you really need to understand the context. And then, so that also, this process also requires for your organization to understand and allocate the necessary resources for user research in early on. And the fifth complexity is called institutional complexities. So this is the cultural or micro-social structures that exist within an organization, including norms, attitudes, roles, political tensions, sources of power, and institutionalized ways of doing things. For instance, the effect of institutional culture and influence of internal political structures on how designers and researchers are perceived and valued by other roles, especially in areas of work with high domain exclusivity, meaning specialized domain knowledge unavailable to outsiders. Practitioners often find themselves fighting for credibility among teams that include work domain experts. That may mean you need to fight for access to resources necessary to do your UX design research. Next, I'd like to discuss when these complexities more likely to happen. Here are the 4 phases of product life stage. The first one is called introduction. The second one is called growth. Third one is called maturity or stabilization. And the last one is called decline. And often more layers of complexities discussed now can appear in the phase 1, introduction. Especially so if the product-related teams are newly established within your organization or the organization itself is young. And now I'd like to discuss which steps of product design process I'm going to talk about today related to how we may face chaos created by complexities while we work on information architecture. Regardless of the size of business or industry, there are product design process to follow. And here is one example. First, you need to understand the scope of the product, the target users, learn about use cases, create information architecture, then research, sketch, design, implementation, and execution. Today, we are going to focus on the first step, understand. Within this first step, there may be 3 types of chaos caused by complexities you may encounter. The first task of any product design process is to understand MVP and the requirements. Here, you may encounter, well, as a potential chaos, number 1, lack of MVP. This is often caused by intentional complexities. And sometimes your business leads try to solve too many problems in one product. This may give you an impression that your product may reach more customers, but in reality, more likely, it would confuse and lose potential customers due to the lack of clear selling points. And for in case, if you don't know what MVP stands for, that stands for minimum viable product. And in the UX field, the definition of that is the minimum set of features that satisfies one given problem. So potential solution for that is to help them, in this case, business leads or your organization, define key functions by focusing on a smaller area to solve problems, at least to start. Discuss with product owners as business leads by providing them with competitive and comparative analysis to help them narrow down key features. And here you can bring your curiosity to remix features to get a different vantage point. By changing vantage point to solve problems with your curiosity and cultivating conversations among key stakeholders, the UX practitioners may be able to help them to focus on the fewer features as MVP. Sometimes showing examples, good examples, successful products, is better than talking with them, talking with key stakeholders logically, because by showing and actually experiencing like a successful other products, they could better relate to the topic. That is really possible. The second task is to collect and define use cases where you will need to talk to key stakeholders within your organization. And here you may encounter the potential chaos, number 2, cultural barrier caused by institutional complexities. And the problem here will be like-minded professionals form a community with background and interest and a common language as well, which is full of technical terms and acronyms unique to their domain. This universal language has the power to unite teams, but also has the power to alienate others, including stakeholders. Solution for that is learn their language. Well, one of the basic human needs is to be understood. So by becoming interesting to them, by being interested in their culture, by bringing your curiosity. What I mean is learning curiosities. For instance, even like on a daily basis, their conversation might be filled with lingo that you may not understand. This is just one example, but let's say in robotics, there are so many terms specifically used in this industry. The one example is to move robots. We call it the action of the jogging. Joggings are robots. We don't call it like a driving robot. So you can imagine how many specialized terms you need to understand and learn just to simply carry a conversation with a specialist within an organization and during user interviews and talk about the project in general. This is like learning a new language and to communicate with someone from another culture. The best way to understand is having an immersive experience as well. And the earlier the better in the process. And also sometimes, especially if the industry you are in is a very, very unique or very new, there may be organization-specific terms and lingos, and they may not be well documented yet, because usually if you are in a new industry, everything is moved so fast and the environment is so dynamic. So it's better to get familiarized in those organization-specific language as well to make the design process smoother in the long run. And the third task is to create information architecture and rough ideation. This is when all collected information is merged and synthesized and expressed in one concept. And here you may encounter potential chaos number 3, conflicting requirements. This is caused by information complexities. So by interviewing and collecting information, there may be conflicting requirements and based on user research, and you may uncover pre-existing constraints. And because of that, the information volume may become so high that also increases further complexities as well. The solution for that is help them, in this case, key stakeholders, by providing solutions, you design solutions for the lack of resources or pre-existing constraints. But also, I would suggest make sure to share concepts based on optimum user experience that are free of such obstacles as well, and put it somewhere internal public space as well, so that they would know what if once they don't have those constraints, how the product can be really user-friendly as well. And by facilitating conversation amongst key stakeholders, because believe it or not, regardless of the size of the organization, sometimes key stakeholders may not talk to each other. They may not have a chance to talk with each other. So by facilitating conversation, we as UX practitioners may be able to try to understand or try to help them to understand why there are conflicting requirements within key stakeholders. And also, when you try to understand, you come from a sense of, like, again, curiosity to understand why they think certain features more important than others. And you may be able to bridge their gaps and also simultaneously provide solutions via very effective information architecture. So again, how to design product in chaos? Well, you may be certified UX practitioners. Your organization may have amazing marketing teams and sales teams, and your organization may be able to purchase all design tools your team wants. But the process of collecting the information required for creating effective information architecture to begin with contains these chaos. Credentials and design tools will not be fully utilized. So product design processing in chaos is very similar to running a marathon, but no cost provided. But the chaos you are facing is just temporary. As I explained, your curiosity will help you to guide you to a right direction. And also don't forget, you don't need to work alone. Your curiosity, as long as it's coming from a genuine place, may work as a magnet to attract right people, therefore right information. Your curiosity will guide you as a compass to cross the finish line. So no matter how chaotic the process or situation may look, you will cross the final line with curiosity as a compass. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yuki.
Thank you.
It was very interesting presentation. I also got some private messages that it was very interesting. So thank you very much for that. Dear people, do you have any questions? You can turn on your mic and just ask them. Or write it. Please don't be shy. Oh, we got another message that thank you, it was very interesting.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Maybe it seems that you covered all the needed information and people don't have more questions.
Okay.
Or they are just shy.
Yes.
Okay, let's wait maybe a bit longer. And
sure.
And then we go to the next presentation. This is a bit of awkward silence. Sorry for that.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I got some kind of message.
Okay.
Oh, people wrote that they have some kind of problem with chat and they can't write messages. Okay. So maybe it's a technical issue then. So I don't know how to fix it right now very fast. So how about that? Let's not keep you more here. Well, you can stay with us, but not on camera. And if there will be any questions a bit later, I will just maybe send it to you and then we will send it to participants. Is it okay with you?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, great. So once more, thank you very much for joining us and have a very nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You too.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Okay.
Thanks. Okay,